Hello, I'm at Arabia Mountain once more. Today is a much more foggy day than the last time I came here, which adds for a very cool vibe. It's a little wet too. Nice temperature too. I mean, it's January when I'm filming this, and it's genuinely like kind of warm in my sweater. So. Main thing I'm trying to do today is use different lenses. For like the last, really like 5 or 6 months, I've pretty much only used my 50mm lens, which is like my go-to. Talked about it plenty of times on my channel. You know, I'm getting comfortable in that situation, but if you've watched my other videos, I've remarked a few different times how like, I wish I had this other lens with me right now for a specific photo. So right now, I'm shooting on my 23mm, which is on a micro four thirds, more or less 46mm, I guess. So it's actually closer to a true 50 than the 50 I used, which is more like a short telephoto, like 100mm, which I think is really like the style I do enjoy quite a bit in photography, but it's not the only thing I enjoy, and it's not the only thing I should use. So I brought this 23, but I also brought my tilt lens just to, give myself leeway to experiment a few different things and challenge myself to do more than I've been doing. Well, I chose the 23mm because it's very wide compared to what I normally use, very different. Just to illustrate some of the differences between these lenses, I'm standing right here where I took this photo, and this is what it looks like, well, on this wide lens, but also on this 23mm. And I'm hoping I got that shot in focus. It's not like I haven't used this lens before. This actually is probably my number 2 lens, and for a time it was even like my number 1 lens until I got the 50 and got really like accustomed and attached to that one. But I gotta say, I already feel like I'm sort of missing some shots, and I think the main important thing that I really need to change right now is that when I'm like envisioning a shot, I'm envisioning it with my 50mm, whereas that's not what I'm using. So I need to not envision with that in mind, but envision with this very wide scope in mind that I have with the 23. So I see this tree very close by, and I think it would be a nice shot to just have that in the frame with the ground and then the fog in the background. So I think to do that, I need to get lower and a little bit closer than I would expect. I'm gonna try to move around and see if I can get that shot. I got a few different takes of it. Not like fully satisfied with it. I thought from a distance maybe it was gonna be a cooler shot than it was, but anyway. I've made it to this tree that I took a lot of photos of last time. Let's call it the famous tree. So I'm gonna take some pictures of it and the area around it with this lens. Then I'm gonna change to the tilt lens, take some photos with that. And finally, I'm gonna end off on my go-to lens and really see how it feels. How big of a difference is it really making? Or how big of a difference is it that I'm so accustomed to this other lens now in terms of what I'm actually able to get? So I'm expecting probably I'll get more with that just because of what it is, and maybe this scenario is also benefited by the 50, but that's something I want to combat and really just practice my technique and my skill set as a photographer with different lenses. That's the challenge for me in this video. Well, I think one of the most fascinating things you can do as a photographer is to just walk around your subject, in my case, this tree, and seeing how the different angles affect the images you're able to get. And I think I got the best angle from kind of over there on that side, kind of low to the ground on a knee, where I'm trying to really give power to the subject. I think my favorite shot that I got on the 23 was actually overlooking kind of the hill that way. And you can see kind of the different layers of the mountain through the fog. So I think that was pretty cool. I'm satisfied with that one, and I'm satisfied with the shot I ended up deciding was my best one of the tree. But overall, I do need to kind of reacquaint myself with this lens and with shooting with not just my 50. I'm really working on envisioning shots with a different lens. But I will also say that maybe this particular environment and this particular camera, maybe a slightly more telephoto or kind of tighter appearance is more suited to my style. All right, so I'm gonna change my lens, and you're not gonna judge how fast and effectively I do it because I'm also talking at the same time. And we're also not gonna judge how long it takes me to find the lens cap. There you go. And so this tilt lens is a 50. If you're not tilting it, it's kind of just a basic 50mm lens. So how is it any different from just shooting my regular go-to lens that's a 50? Well, different f-stop and different features on the lens, of course, but mainly, obviously, it's a tilt lens. So I'm gonna go ahead and really make sure I'm using the tilt functionality today, seeing how that's gonna affect some of my images. I think one thing I really want to kind of hone in on is it's interesting how, as an artist, your style will develop. Like when I first started, like I said earlier, the 23mm was one of my favorite lenses, and I used it quite a bit, and it was probably one of my sharper lenses, and maybe that's kind of something that I liked about it more. But I think over the last couple years, when I've really gotten serious about photography and gotten better at it, well, I think I have gravitated more towards tighter lenses, like that mid telephoto range, the 50 to 55. I think that's not a problem. I think I have lenses that I can do a variety of things, and that's what I'm trying to do today. And I think that's a good thing. I think variety is great, and I really love my lens collection and all the lenses I have. But it is interesting how like the work that kind of speaks to me the most has developed over the years and really gravitated into a particular direction. I don't know, it's fun to see your progress develop and see what you gravitate towards, as like see how you see things, like how I keep envisioning things through the 50, but how not necessarily how that's like a negative on the 50, but that's more of like how I'm wanting to see things and how I'm satisfied with the images I'm able to get on that. I feel like I'm really making art with that. And so, I don't know, really fun to me. So far, I'm really enjoying what I'm getting on the tilt lens. I think one of the main things is that it's really good for these like nice details, because you can really separate like different parts of the frame from each other using the tilt functionality. And another way that really shines for me right now is one thing that I really struggle with is separating like trees from a background that also has trees, and it kind of gets a little muddy. But I feel like a couple of the shots I've gotten on the tilt lens subvert that issue that I have. So very pleased with that overall. It's probably been the most fun I've ever had using this lens so far, which is saying something because I do quite enjoy using it. While I'm up here, I'm gonna go ahead and change my camera battery too, because I'm on 12% and I don't feel like stopping again right away. You know, another thing I didn't do this trip is bring water with me. Last time it was worse because I brought a backpack. Here I just have my little sling pack, but I'm not necessarily like thirsty right now, but you know, there's a potential for that happening in the future. I do have water in the car though, so last time I didn't even bring water to the car. But once I get back to my car, I'll definitely have a little sippy sip. All right, final lens change. I'm gonna go to my most used lens of the last several months, my go-to lens, my TT Artisan 50mm f9.5. I think one major thing, it's kind of obvious I suppose, but since the tilt lens is also a 50, every time I put the camera up to my eye, I know more or less what the frame is going to be, like the size of the frame. There's less like guesswork and less like, oh crap, like I got to move closer, I got to move further or more to the side, or like there's all this other stuff in the frame. Just like the speed of play there is not necessarily like the most crucial thing, because you know, here I'm like framing up trees and landscapes, so it's not like it's going to run away. Out in the wild, let's say, well, I guess this is the wild, out in civilization, if you're trying to do like documentary style work, or you don't really have the opportunity to reframe the shot, sometimes you have to be really quick. That's definitely a huge pro of using the same lens over and over and over again. And I think that was like the main idea behind it, is just like really acquainting myself with one piece of gear. How is it going to cultivate my style? And I think in general, it has been a big success. Even though that it has been a success, I don't want it to be the only thing that I do. Back to my car. I made it back. I didn't record any more talking head because there's so many people around towards the end, and I'm even embarrassed doing this now in the parking lot, but I don't want to do it while driving this time. I think through a little fatigue of walking and photographing, I took less on the last lens in the end, but I still think I took some good photos, and I think there's just a comfort and like a know-how of like how the photos are going to turn out. Also, like I went over the top of the mountain instead of kind of the side, so there are fewer trees and more like water puddles, so I got some nice video footage, I think, of that, some b-roll, fewer photos. You know, honestly, maybe that was the better section to have the 23 on. of the hike, but also maybe not. I don't know. Maybe next time I'll kind of invert what I'm doing there in that way. But overall, this was a good challenge, a good exercise. I mean, literally good exercise, but it was a good challenge for me to use my other lenses and do something a little different with my photography and breaking out of my comfort zone. I think I created this comfort zone for a reason, like I've been saying, to cultivate this style. And I think I've achieved that. But from time to time, it's great to break out of that comfort zone and try different things and go back and use things that I was using previously that I haven't so much recently, learning from that. And like, why did I move from the 23? And I think I can kind of understand a little bit of that, but I can also still see the value of the 23 and how it is a really good lens and how I do enjoy using it quite a bit and how I do enjoy using the tilt lens quite a bit. And it definitely has its use cases for sure. That is a really great lesson for me from this photo walk that I'm going to take with me into the next photo walks. I mean, it didn't really add a lot of weight to bring a couple extra lenses, even though I do try to stay minimal. So maybe in the future, I'll just bring one extra lens and start from there. Changing lenses definitely changes the way you shoot, changes how you see, changes what you can get. And I think it should change how you envision your shots. That's my main failing of today with the 23 and even with the tilt lens, even though I'm very happy with what I got. I think you have to be able to envision, like, what is this going to look like when you bring the camera to your eye, which is the main strength kind of using the same lens, but also the same focal length. So that's something that I just, I have to equate myself with my gear. Really, the best challenge for me would be to achieve my style that I've cultivated on the 50mm f9.5 using different lenses. So that's how I'm going to progress forward. That's the challenge for me as a long-term goal. And yeah, but overall, successful photo walk. Hopefully you enjoyed the B-roll. Hopefully you really enjoyed the photos especially. And, thirdly, hopefully you enjoyed what I had to talk about. If you did, make sure you subscribe to my channel and like the video to let me know. Hopefully you'll stick around for more photography content just like this, but also way different. I've been Tony King. I'll see you there. Peace.